The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky of Bath with shades of orange and pink as I walked alongside Henry down the cobblestone streets. The atmosphere was magical, as if we were in a romantic movie. He looked at me with those deep blue eyes, and I felt my heart race. "Clara, have you ever imagined what our future will be like?" he asked, breaking the silence that hung between us. His voice was soft, almost like a whisper. "Sometimes, yes. It's hard not to think about it when I'm with you," I replied, smiling. "I imagine a cozy house, maybe with a garden, and who knows, some kids running around." Henry smiled back, and his smile brightened my day even more. "And you're the person I want to share all of this with. I feel like we're building something special." Those words made me even more confident in our relationship. I truly believed Henry was the perfect man. He was kind, affectionate, and always seemed to know what to do to make me happy. We walked hand in hand, and the feeling of security wrapped around me like a warm blanket on a cold day. "Shall we stop for a moment?" Henry suggested, pointing to a small cafe on our right. "I think we deserve a hot chocolate." I agreed, and we entered the cafe, where the aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries filled the air. We chose a table by the window, where we could watch the hustle and bustle of the city. As he placed our order, I let my thoughts wander about how everything felt perfect. "You seem so thoughtful," he said, sitting across from me with 2 steaming mugs. "What's on your mind?" "Just thinking about how good life can be," I replied, raising my mug for a toast. "Sometimes I wonder if I deserve all of this." Henry frowned. "You are more than deserving, Clara. You bring light into my life." We sipped our hot chocolate, and each gulp felt like it warmed not just my body but my soul too. The conversation flowed easily. We talked about our dreams, plans, and even our upcoming trip for next month. When we returned home, the magical atmosphere still lingered between us. I decided it was time to organize some things in the bedroom, something I had been putting off. While tidying up the drawer of the desk, something caught my eye: a small diary hidden under some sheets of paper. Curious, I pulled it out and examined the worn cover. It was an old diary, with the edges of the pages yellowed with time. "Henry, do you know whose diary this is?" I asked, calling him over. He approached, and his eyes narrowed as he saw the diary in my hands. That's a diary I had when I was younger. I don't know why it's still here." "Can I take a look?" I asked, already flipping through the diary. "Sure," he replied, a bit hesitantly. I started reading aloud some passages about Henry's childhood, memories of family trips, school friends, and youthful dreams. It was charming, and I felt closer to him with each word. But then, as I flipped through a few more pages, I found something that made me uneasy. The entry mentioned an unsolved crime in the city, a murder that had occurred years ago. My heart raced. "Henry, what is this?" I asked, my eyes wide with surprise. "You never told me about this." He fell silent for a moment, his gaze drifting somewhere distant. "It's a part of my past that I preferred to leave behind," he replied, his voice low. "But this is serious. You can't just ignore it." He stepped closer, taking the diary from my hands. "Clara, I promised I would never talk about it because it's not worth it. Let's forget about it, please." Those words echoed in my mind as I tried to process the sudden revelation. Something inside me began to stir. What else was he hiding? What did I really know about the man I was getting involved with? I sat down on the couch, Henry's diary still in my hands, and the unease consuming me felt almost palpable. The afternoon light filtered through the curtains, casting dancing shadows on the wall, but instead of providing comfort, those shadows seemed to hide dark secrets. I was about to enter unknown territory, and the idea of discussing what I had discovered with Sophie made me nervous. When the doorbell rang, my heart raced. I quickly got up and went to the door, finding Sophie with a wide smile, carrying 2 coffees. "Clara, you won't believe what I found at the cafe around the corner," she said as she entered, her curious gaze landing on the diary on my table. "Actually, I have something more important to discuss," I replied, gesturing to the sofa. "It's about Henry." Sophie's smile faded, and a worried expression took over her face. "Clara, what happened?" she asked, sitting down next to me. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my courage. I found his diary. The things I read. I don't know how to explain, but he mentions a murder. An unsolved crime here in Bath. Sophie raised an eyebrow. A murder? Are you serious? Yes, I replied, running my fingers over the pages. He talks about a friend who was involved. I don't know what to do with this, Sophie. I love Henry, but what if he's hiding something? What if that past is closer than I imagine? You need to confront him, Sophie said, her voice firm. If he truly loves you, he should be able to handle this. What you found is serious, Clara. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. But what if I'm wrong? What if this ends our relationship? I don't want him to think I don't trust him. You need to find out the truth, Sophie insisted, her eyes fixed on mine. Think about your happiness. What if he's lying? You deserve to know. The hesitation that settled in me was agonizing. I decided I needed more information before confronting him. Sophie, I don't know if I can do this. I need time to think. She nodded, but the concern was still evident on her face. Just be careful, Clara. Sometimes, the truth can be more painful than the lie. After Sophie left, loneliness washed over me again. I looked at the diary, and a sudden impulse made me decide I needed to follow Henry. The next day would be a test, an opportunity to learn more about the man I loved. The next morning, I waited until he left, my heart pounding in my chest. Henry stepped out with a carefree expression, and, like a shadow, I decided to follow him. The street was calm, and the light atmosphere contrasted with the storm brewing inside me. He walked to a bar I had never seen before. The glass door reflected his face, and I hid behind a nearby tree, watching him enter. My stomach twisted. What was he doing there? After a few minutes, I saw a man approach Henry. The exchange of glances between them made my heart stop. This wasn't just an acquaintance. There was palpable tension. Their conversation seemed intense, and I wondered if I was about to discover something that would change everything. The man gestured, and Henry looked nervous, as if he was reluctant to engage in that conversation. I crept a little closer, trying to catch their words. You can't keep going like this, Henry, the man said, his voice low but charged with urgency. Things could get worse. I know, Henry replied, his expression tense. But I can't just walk away. They're still lurking. My heart raced. What did this mean? There was something much deeper going on than I had imagined, and part of me wanted to intervene, but the other part was paralyzed by fear. What would I do if he really was involved in something criminal? When the conversation ended, I knew I needed to go home. The uncertainty gnawed at my mind, and upon arriving home, I found Henry already there, seemingly unconcerned. He smiled when he saw me, but I felt a knot in my stomach. That smile didn't seem so assured anymore. Hey, love. How was your day? He asked, as he approached to give me a kiss. I hesitated, my mind swirling with unasked questions. Hey, Henry. Mine was interesting, I replied, trying to hide the storm brewing inside me. That's good. Do we have plans for the weekend? He continued, as if nothing was happening. Doubt consumed me, and I realized the moment to confront him was approaching, but I needed courage. And above all, I needed to know if the love I felt was enough to face the secrets he held. I sat on the bed with the diary open, the yellowed pages and the smell of old paper filling the air around me. The soft afternoon light streamed through the window, but the atmosphere felt heavy, as if the very environment was aware of the secrets those pages held. I couldn't stop thinking about Henry and the image I had of him. The perfect boyfriend, caring and attentive. But as I read, the image began to crumble, revealing a past I had never known. Henry, what happened to you? I murmured to myself, as my eyes scanned the words written in hurried handwriting. The narrative spoke of a group of Henry's friends who got into trouble, and the mention of one of them as the main suspect in a crime left me uneasy. This can't be true, I thought, the words echoing in my mind. What else did I not know about him? What kind of person was Henry really? My hands trembled slightly as I turned the pages. With each new entry, a part of me broke. I remembered how Henry looked at me, how he held my hand. He can't be who I'm thinking, I said to myself, trying to push away the doubt that settled in my heart. I decided I needed to know more. With a knot in my stomach, I went to my laptop and started researching the murder mentioned. What I found left me paralyzed. The victim, a guy named Jonathan Miller, had a connection to Henry. They were childhood friends. What did this mean? I felt a wave of panic. How did I not know this before? What else had he hidden? Clara, are you okay? Sophie's voice pulled me from my stupor. I had invited her for coffee, but now all I could think about were the revelations haunting me. No, I'm not, I replied, looking at her with wide eyes. I found something in Henry's diary. He was involved with a group of friends, and one of them is the main suspect in a murder. Sophie frowned, clearly concerned.
You need to talk to him about this.
You can't keep this information to yourself. I know, I admitted, the pressure in my chest only increasing. But what if he doesn't tell me the truth? What if this is more complicated than it seems? Then you need to find out the truth for yourself. You can't let this consume you, Sophie replied, her determination evident. With a confused mind and a racing heart, I decided I needed to confront Henry. When he came home that night, my heart raced. He looked so carefree, so normal, as if nothing was happening. Hey, love, he said, with a smile that made me feel a chill in my stomach. How was your day? I need to talk to you, Henry, I replied, my voice nearly faltering. He noticed the seriousness in my expression, and the joy on his face faded.
Sure.
What's wrong? He sat down beside me, and I could feel the tension in the air. I found a diary of yours. It talks about a group of friends and a crime, Henry. A murder, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He turned pale, his eyes widening. Clara, that's not what you think. I swear I have nothing to do with it. But you were friends with the victim, weren't you? How can I trust you now? The words came out harsher than I intended, but the pain and confusion were palpable. I didn't know what to do. It was a past I wanted to leave behind. I'm not that person anymore, he pleaded, his voice trembling. But what am I supposed to think? How can I believe you're not hiding something else? I asked, frustration mingling with despair. Henry leaned closer, taking my hand. Please, Clara, give me a chance to explain. I'm not the man you read about in that diary. That was years ago. I just wanted to forget.
I don't want you to see me that way.
I looked into his eyes, searching for some truth. But doubt still loomed between us, like a shadow that wouldn't dissipate. I don't know if I can, Henry. This situation is consuming me. He let out a deep sigh, and the expression on his face changed, as if he was struggling against something greater. Please trust me. I'm not who you think I am. Those words echoed in my mind, but trust was wavering. What did I really know about the man I loved? The morning light filtered through the curtains, softly illuminating the room in an almost ethereal way. I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, Henry's diary open in my hands, the yellowed pages revealing secrets I had never imagined existed. My heart raced, a mix of anxiety and determination. I decided I needed to discover the truth that could change everything between us. With a deep breath, I grabbed my phone and looked for the number of a private investigator named Mr. Thompson, known for his skill in unraveling mysteries that the police couldn't solve. My hands trembled slightly as I dialed, and a deep, confident voice answered on the other end. Hello, this is Mr. Thompson. How can I help you? Hi, Mr. Thompson. My name is Clara and I need help. I found a diary that belongs to my boyfriend, and it mentions an unsolved crime. I'm very confused and I'm scared. I hesitated for a moment, but the urgency of the situation made me continue. Can you meet me to talk about this? It's important. Of course, Clara. Let's meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the cafe in the square. I will do my best to help you. I hung up, feeling a weight in my chest that wouldn't dissipate. I looked out the window, watching people pass by, each with their own stories, while mine seemed to unravel into a maze of uncertainties. The next day, I arrived at the cafe with my heart racing. The aroma of fresh coffee and the sound of clinking cups created a cozy atmosphere, but I couldn't relax. Minutes later, Mr. Thompson walked in. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and a penetrating gaze that seemed to see beyond words. "Clara, right?" He greeted me, pulling a chair to sit across from me. "What did you find in the diary?" With trembling hands, I placed the diary on the table and began to tell him everything I had discovered. Thompson's expression grew increasingly serious as I spoke about the crime and Henry's connection to the dark past. "I can't believe he could be involved in something like this," I murmured, my voice choked with disbelief. "It's understandable, but we need to look at the facts, Clara. You mentioned he had a group of friends who got into trouble. There may be more than you realize." As we talked, the feeling of being immersed in a mystery deepened. Each word from Thompson seemed to reveal more about what I didn't know. What I wanted to find was the truth, but what if that truth was too painful to bear? That night, upon returning home, I tried to act normally around Henry. He greeted me with a radiant smile, and for a moment, I almost let myself be swept away. We were planning a romantic weekend, something that had excited me before. But now, the idea of a riverside outing felt like a burden. "Clara, are you okay?" Henry asked, concern evident in his gaze. "You seem distant." "I'm fine. Just a little tired," I lied, forcing a smile. How could I tell him that the trust in our relationship was slipping away like sand between my fingers? "How about we go out for dinner later? What do you think?" he suggested, taking my hand. "Sure, that sounds great," I replied, but the emotional weight I carried was too heavy to ignore. What would I do if I discovered that the man I loved was involved in something so dark? The tension between us grew, and I knew I couldn't hide the truth forever. In the following days, I kept in touch with Mr. Thompson. He promised to investigate thoroughly, and I felt increasingly anxious with each new meeting. A part of me hoped it was all just a misunderstanding, but deep down, an uneasy voice told me that the truth could be much darker. Finally, on a rainy afternoon, I received a message from Mr. Thompson. He wanted to meet again, and my heart sank at the thought of what I might hear. When I arrived at our meeting point, he was waiting, a grave expression on his face that made me tremble inside. "Clara, we need to talk," he began, and I knew that what would follow could change everything. The afternoon light filtered through the curtains of my room, creating a soft pattern on the wooden floor. I sat on the edge of the bed, Henry's diary open on my lap, its yellowed pages seeming heavier than ever. What I had read over the past weeks had left me in a constant state of unease. I knew I needed to confront him again, but the thought of opening my heart and exposing the doubts that consumed me was terrifying. The pounding of my heart echoed in my ears as memories of happy moments with Henry surfaced. How can I question a man who makes me feel so alive? I thought, but on the other hand, that diary had shown me a dark side I couldn't ignore. He had enchanted me with his sweetness and charm, but now I wondered if it was all just a facade. I decided that before confronting him, it was time to meet with Mr. Thompson again. He was the only person who, besides me, had a glimpse of what was happening. I needed more information, something that would give me the courage to face Henry head-on. "Clara, you need to understand that the truth can hurt, but ignorance is even more dangerous," he had said the last time we met. With that in mind, I went to his office. "Clara, good to see you again," Mr. Thompson said, adjusting his glasses. "What have you discovered?" I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it. It's complicated," I replied, sitting in the chair across from him. The investigator looked at me deeply, as if trying to read my thoughts. "You need to be honest with yourself. The evidence I have is heavy. Henry's connection to the crime. It's not something you can ignore," he said, his tone serious. "I know, but what if he isn't guilty? What if this is all just a misunderstanding?" I asked, feeling tears welling in my eyes. "If you don't confront him, Clara, you'll never know," he replied. "The choice is yours, but remember, the truth is liberating." I left Mr. Thompson's office with a mix of anxiety and determination. The conversation with him made me realize I was at a point of no return. What did I really want? The truth or the illusion of a perfect love? The answer seemed clear, but the fear of losing Henry paralyzed me. Later, at a local cafe, I met Sophie. Her face brightened when she saw me. "Clara, how are you?" she asked, pulling a chair for me. "I'm well, actually. I don't know if I can say I'm okay," I replied, looking at my cup of coffee. "Do you remember that diary I found?" "Of course."
Are you still thinking about it?
Sophie asked, concerned.
Yes.
I went to the investigator. He has some evidence linking Henry to the crime.
I
don't know what to do," I confessed. "You need to confront him." "You can't live like this with that weight," Sophie insisted, holding my hand. "You love Henry, so ask him what's going on. If he truly loves you, he'll tell you the truth." Those words echoed in my mind like a mantra. I needed to be brave. "You're right. I'm going to talk to him," I replied, feeling a new kind of determination grow inside me. When I got home, my heart was racing uncontrollably. Henry was in the kitchen, preparing something. He turned and smiled when he saw me. "Hi, love. How was your day?" "Hi, Henry. We need to talk," I said, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. His expression changed instantly. "Sure, about what?" "About the diary," I declared, swallowing hard. "I read some things that made me worried." He furrowed his brow, his expression becoming more serious. "What did you read, Clara?" "I know about the past."
About the crime.
"About how you were involved," I said, feeling the words come out like a whisper. Henry took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "Clara, this is complicated.
I
didn't want you to find out like this. So tell me the truth, Henry. What happened?" I insisted, desperate for answers. He hesitated, his gaze lost. "I hid things from you, but not because I wanted to hurt you. The past is complicated, and I'm not who you think I am." "But who are you, Henry?" I asked, the pain of his betrayal beginning to form in my chest. "I didn't commit the crime, Clara, but I was there. I saw things I shouldn't have seen, and because of that, I didn't know how to deal with it," he confessed, his voice choked. "So, what else have you hidden from me?" I asked, my trust wobbling like a house of cards. "I don't know. I just wanted to live with you and leave all of this behind," he replied, the vulnerability in his eyes making me want to believe him. "But you can't just expect me to forget." "This changed everything between us," I said, feeling the weight of disillusionment pressing down on me. Silence settled between us, and I knew that the truth I sought was much closer than I imagined. The air was heavy and tense in Mr. Thompson's small office. I had decided it was time to act, not just to confront Henry, but also to seek help from someone who understood the intricacies of the crime he was involved in. The diary was in my hands, its yellowed and worn pages seeming to carry the weight of secrets buried for too long. "Mr. Thompson, I need your help. I found this diary and, well, it contains information about Henry that I can't ignore," I began, my voice trembling slightly. The investigator looked at me with a mix of curiosity and seriousness. He took the diary and started flipping through it while I sat nervously in a wooden chair that creaked under my weight. "This name here, Henry, are you sure he's connected to this case? What do you know about the crime?" Thompson asked, his gaze fixed on the handwritten lines. I sat up straight, trying to organize the thoughts that danced frantically in my mind. He was a friend of one of the people involved. From what I read, he was present on the night of the crime, but it seems he became a witness, someone who was afraid of what might happen to him if he spoke. I replied, closing my eyes for a moment, remembering Henry's expression when I confronted him. "But what does that mean? Is he guilty or not?" Thompson sighed, placing the diary on the table. "If Henry was just a witness, that changes everything. We need to investigate more about this man he encountered. Do you know who it is?" "No, but I saw him once when I followed Henry. He looked very nervous, and the look they exchanged wasn't one of friendship," I recalled, my heart racing. "What if I'm wrong? What if Henry isn't guilty? We need concrete evidence. If this man is indeed an accomplice, we can find something that links him to this crime," Thompson said, already beginning to take notes. "We'll work together. The truth needs to come out." The plan was set. As I left the office, the sunlight seemed brighter, but the weight of uncertainty still followed me. I needed to confront Henry again, but this time with a new perspective. Hours later, I found him at home, lying on the couch, looking distant. "Clara, are you okay?" he asked, quickly sitting up when he noticed my expression. "Henry, we need to talk. I went to the investigator, and he believes you might be innocent. But we need to know the truth, and that includes everything," I said, the urgency in my voice almost making my heart stop. "You don't understand, Clara. I can't talk about this. If I open my mouth, it could be dangerous. I just wanted to protect you," he replied, his voice trembling, frustration evident on his face. "Protect or hide? Henry, the only way I can trust you is if you're honest with me.
What happened that night?
Who was that man?" The questions poured out like a flood, and I could see the internal struggle in his eyes. He took a deep breath, as if trying to gather courage. "That man, he was my friend, but he also got involved in things he shouldn't have. I wasn't there to protect him, but to be a witness. And I was scared. Scared that if I spoke, my life and yours would be in danger." "So you were scared all along, and that's why you let us live this lie?" I shouted, pain and confusion overflowing. "I know I was wrong, and I'm sorry, but I promise I will do whatever it takes to fix this. We can go to the police together and expose the truth," he said, his voice now calm but boiling with determination. I looked at him, weighing his words. Love still pulsed in my heart, but trust was wobbling like a leaf in the wind. "If we're going to do this, we have to be transparent, Henry. No more secrets. Are you willing to do that?" "Yes, Clara, I am. And I will do whatever it takes to rebuild what was broken," he replied, his eyes locked on mine, a glimmer of hope mixed with regret. Deep down, I realized that love could overcome secrets, but rebuilding trust was a journey we would have to face together. And so, with the truth in hand, we decided to take the next step. The road ahead would be difficult, but we were ready to confront it,